We'll talk more about mass communication. We talked about those different types of communication in the previous videos, but let's focus primarily on mass communication moving forward in this set of lecture recordings. Um, Here's just a little overview of the next few slides. Laswell's formula of mass communication, Schramm's mass communication model, the functions of mass communication, those include manifest versus latent functions and functions versus dysfunctions. So Laswell, well, just kidding. Let's talk about the following questions, or I want you to jot down again your answers to these. Does mass media have a large influence on consumers? 5 seconds. Okay. And then can consumers do anything to reduce the influence of mass media messages? Maybe 10 seconds. Okay. So you might have said, well, we don't, yes, it has a large influence on consumers, powerful but limited. We'll talk more about that later. How can I reduce that influence? I can stop watching mass media. I can stop consuming mass media. Maybe that's an option. Depending on what channels I get my media from. Let's talk about the channel. That's the important thing here in Laswell's formula. It's very linear as opposed to other communication models. We start with the communicator, so the who. We then have the message, the who says what, and then the channel, via what channel. So this could be via our televisions, our radio, could be interpersonally, if we're FaceTiming with someone, the channel, through what channel. And then the receiver, so who's receiving the message, and then the effect. So if I send you a message via text, is it going to have a different effect than if I call you on the phone? And the answer is likely yes. If I email you, that will also have a different effect than if I chose to text you, right? So here's a good example of how the channel can have a large effect on the audience. I'm going to stop sharing and reshare with the YouTube. So it'll take a second to load. But if you've never heard this, then just a little background. Oh, I'm not sharing the right thing again. How do I always do this? I don't understand. All right, why? This happened last time too. I'm really upset that I didn't fix it. Okay, try again. Let's just share my whole screen this time. Not there. It's slow today too. Okay. So background, Orson Welles was an entertainer. He would write play scripts or things like that, but he was an entertainer. He created entertainment. And in 1938, we didn't have televisions, we had a radio. And the radio was a big giant box that sat in the floor, and families gathered around the giant box in the floor that had programs. We call them programs back then, coming out of the speakers. So this was at a technological boom, a wave, if you will. And I want you to pay attention to what's being said and what effect it might have on someone who doesn't have any visual. And they also they might be tuning in like after it already started, because in that time we weren't afforded the ability to rewind or go faster.
We are bringing you an eyewitness account of what's happening on the Wilmuth Farm, Grover's Mill, New Jersey. We now return you to Carl Phillips at Grover's Mill.
Ladies and gentlemen, am I on? Ladies and gentlemen, here I am, back of a stone wall that adjoins Mr. Wilmuth's garden. From here, I get a sweep of the whole scene. I'll give you every detail as long as I can talk and as long as I can see. More state police have arrived. They're drawing up a cordon in front of the pit. About 30 of them. No need to push the crowd back now. They're willing to keep their distance. Captain's conferring with someone. Can't quite see who. Oh, yes, I believe it's Professor Pearson. Yes, it is. Now they've parted, and the professor moves around one side, studying the object, while the captain and two policemen advance with something in their hands. I can see it now. It's a white handkerchief tied to a pole. Flag of truce. If those creatures know what that means, what anything means. Wait a minute, something's happening. A humped shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror. What's that? There's a jet of flame springing from the mirror, and it leaps right at the advancing men. It strikes them head on. Oh, Lord, they're turning into flames. Now the whole field's caught up by the woods, the barns, the gas tanks for the automobiles, spreading everywhere. It's coming this way now, about 20 yards to my right.
Ladies and gentlemen, due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to continue the broadcast from Grover's Mill. Evidently, there's some difficulty with our field transmission. However, we will return to that point at the earliest opportunity. In the meantime, we have a late bulletin from San Diego, California. Professor Indelkoffer, speaking at a dinner of the California Astronomical Society, expressed the opinion that the explosions on Mars are undoubtedly nothing more than severe volcanic disturbances on the surface of the planet. We continue now with our piano interlude.
Okay, so this is a good example of how the channel can have an impact. So if you're sitting in the floor listening to that, you might think that aliens are invading based on the context. If you were listening to the news right before, especially. So it doesn't give you as much context. And this is a case study that has been studied for a long time. And people actually did think that like aliens were invading. I don't think Grover's Mill or wherever the setting was in the story is an actual place. So just something to think about. I'm going to stop this one and this video, and I'll pick back up where we left off.